Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he stared at the computer screen. Numbers filled the display, showing cargo loads and ship schedules. He had been doing this job for 3 years now, ever since he quit being a salvage pilot. The EU pay was steady, the work was safe, and nobody shot at him anymore. The new Chicago spaceport buzzed with activity around him. Ships took off and landed every few minutes. Workers moved cargo containers with heavy machines. Travelers hurried past, his office window dragging bags behind them. It was just another normal Tuesday morning. Jake reached for his coffee cup and took a sip. The bitter liquid was already cold. He made a face and set it down. Outside his window, a large freight ship was landing on Pad 7. He checked his screen and saw it was the cargo vessel Liberty Bell, right on time with supplies from Mars. His computer beeped. A new message appeared on screen. Jake clicked it open and read about a delayed shipment of medical supplies. He sighed and started typing a response to the shipping company. This was his life now. Emails, schedules, and paperwork. But then the sky went dark. Jake looked up from his screen, confused. The sun had been shining just moments before. Through his office window, he could see other workers stopping their tasks and looking up at the sky. The darkness wasn't from clouds, it was something else. Massive shapes moved across the sun. Ships, but not like any ships Jake had ever seen. They were huge, easily 10 times bigger than the largest human vessels. Their hulls seemed to be made of blue crystal that caught the light and threw it back in strange patterns. The ships moved without sound, floating through the sky like ghosts. Jake stood up so fast his chair rolled backward and hit the wall. His heart started beating faster. Other people in the spaceport were running now. Alarms began to sound across the facility. Emergency lights flashed red and yellow. "Attention all personnel," a voice said over the speakers. "We have unknown vessels in our airspace. All flights are grounded. Report to emergency stations immediately." Jake didn't move. He couldn't move. He stared at the alien ships and felt something cold spread through his chest. He had seen ships like these before, but smaller. Much smaller. And that was 10 years ago, in a place far from Earth. The memory hit him like a punch to the stomach. 10 years ago, Jake had been 22 years old and new to salvage work. He flew a small ship called the Scrap Hunter through the asteroid belt near Europa, looking for metal and broken machines to sell. It was dangerous work, but it paid well, for someone with no college education and good reflexes. On that day, his sensors had picked up something strange, a signal, weak and getting weaker, coming from a large asteroid. His partner, old Pete Sanders, had told him to ignore it. "Probably just interference," Pete had said over the radio. "We got a schedule to keep." But Jake couldn't ignore it. The signal felt desperate somehow, like someone calling for help. He told Pete he would catch up later and flew his ship toward the asteroid. What he found there changed everything. The asteroid was mostly ice with rocks mixed in. But buried in that ice was a ship. It was small, about the size of Jake's salvage vessel, but its design was completely alien. The hull had the same blue crystal look as the massive ships now floating over Earth. Part of the ship was crushed, and ice had formed around it like it had been there for months. Jake had used his ship's cutting tools to break through the ice. Inside the alien vessel, he found her. She was small, maybe 5 feet tall, with blue skin and silver hair. Her clothes were torn and bloody. She wasn't moving when Jake first saw her, and he thought she was dead. But when he checked, she still had a pulse, though it was very weak. Jake didn't think about whether she might be dangerous. He didn't worry about diseases or alien biology. He just saw someone who needed help. He carried her to his ship and put her in the medical bay. The automated system stabilized her condition, but she was still in bad shape. For 3 days, Jake took care of her. He shared his food and water. He sat beside her bed when she had nightmares. He didn't know if his human medicine would work on her alien body, but he tried everything he could think of. On the 2nd day, she woke up. Her eyes were large and completely black, with no white parts like human eyes. When she saw Jake, she tried to get up and run, but she was too weak. Jake held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he had said. "You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't understand his words at first, but she seemed to understand his tone. Slowly she relaxed. She pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Zara. Jake pointed to himself and said, "Jake." She repeated his name, though it came out sounding like Yake. Over the next day, they found ways to communicate. She drew pictures on a tablet Jake gave her. She showed him star maps and pointed to a distant part of the galaxy. She seemed desperate to get home, but her ship was too damaged to fly. Then, on the third day, something amazing happened. Jake woke up to find Zara standing at the window of his ship, looking out at her vessel. The alien ship was moving. Somehow, it was repairing itself. Broken parts were pulling back together. Ice was melting away from the hull. Zara turned to Jake with tears in her black eyes. She hugged him, and though they couldn't speak the same language, he understood she was saying goodbye. Before she left, Zara pressed something into Jake's hand. It was a small crystal, warm to the touch and glowing with soft blue light. She said something in her language, then tried to say it in English. The words came out broken and hard to understand, but Jake caught the meaning. "I remember kindness." Then she was gone, flying away in her repaired ship toward the stars. Jake had kept the crystal for 10 years. He wore it on a chain around his neck, hidden under his shirt. Sometimes, late at night, it would grow warm against his skin, and he would wonder if she was still alive somewhere among the stars. Now, staring at the massive alien fleet in the sky above Earth, Jake reached under his shirt and touched the crystal. It was burning hot against his fingers. One of the huge ships was breaking away from the others. It turned and began descending toward the spaceport, heading directly for Jake's section. As it got closer, Jake could see it was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The crystal hull reflected the sunlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The ship landed on the cargo pad just outside Jake's office. It touched down without making a sound, as if it weighed nothing at all. A door opened in the side of the ship, though Jake couldn't see where the door had come from. The hull just seemed to flow apart like water. Steam poured out of the opening. Then figures began to emerge. There were 6 of them, all different species that Jake didn't recognize. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. Their skin was different colors, green, purple, orange. But they all wore similar robes that seemed to shimmer and move on their own. And then she stepped out. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was her. It was Zara. She was taller now and looked older, but he would know those black eyes anywhere. Her blue skin seemed to glow with health, and her silver hair was longer, reaching to her shoulders. She wore robes that were more elaborate than the others, with patterns that seemed to shift and change as she moved. She looked around the spaceport for a moment as if searching for something. Then her eyes found Jake's office window. Even from this distance, their eyes met. Zara smiled. She walked across the landing pad, her alien companions following behind her. Jake watched her approach, his mind struggling to understand what was happening. The frightened, injured girl he had saved was now clearly someone very important, someone powerful. Zara reached his office door and stopped. She raised her hand and knocked gently on the glass. Jake's legs felt like water, but he forced himself to walk to the door. His hand shook as he reached for the handle. When he opened the door, Zara was standing there, as real as the day he first found her. "Hello." "Jake Morrison," she said in perfect English, her voice clear and strong. "I told you I would remember your kindness." Jake stared at Zara, unable to speak. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She looked exactly like the girl he had saved, but different too. Older, stronger, and there was something in her eyes that spoke of great responsibility. "You remember me?" Zara said. It wasn't a question. Jake finally found his voice. "Yes, of course I remember you, but how are you here? And those ships?" "May I come in?" Zara asked. "We have much to discuss." Jake stepped back and let her enter his small office. Her alien companions remained outside, forming a protective circle around the entrance. Up close, Jake could see that Zara's robes were even more impressive than he had first thought. They seemed to be made of liquid starlight, shifting between blue and silver as she moved. "You kept it," Zara said, looking at Jake's chest. The crystal under his shirt was glowing so brightly now that light was visible through the fabric. Jake pulled the chain out and held up the crystal. "I never took it off. It's been warm for the last few weeks, but today it's burning hot." Zara smiled sadly. "It has been calling to me. That is how I knew you were here." She looked around his office, taking in the simple desk, computer, and stacks of papers. "You became a clerk." "Cargo coordinator," Jake corrected, then felt foolish. "I used to be a salvage pilot, but I gave that up after I met you. I needed something safer. Because of what happened to you out there," Zara said. "I am sorry. I never meant for my rescue to change your life in a bad way." Jake shook his head. "It wasn't bad. I kept thinking about you out there among the stars. I wondered if you made it home safely. I wondered if I would ever see you again." Before Zara could answer, Jake's computer started beeping loudly. The emergency alert system was broadcasting a message across the spaceport. Jake turned up the volume. "All personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Unknown alien vessels have surrounded Earth. Military forces are responding. This is not a drill." Zara sighed. "Your leaders are frightened. I expected this, but I had hoped for a calmer meeting." "Zara," Jake said, "what's going on? Those ships up there, are they yours?" "Yes," she said simply. "They are mine. I am no longer the lost girl you found on that asteroid, Jake. I am Empress Zara Lynn of the Zilthari hegemony. Those ships represent a small part of my fleet." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. "Empress, you're an empress. I am the ruler of over 300 worlds," Zara continued. "The hegemony stretches across a large part of this galaxy. And 10 years ago, you saved not just my life, but the future of billions of people." Jake's computer beeped again. This time it was a direct communication from Earth's Global Defense Council. The message was marked as highest priority. "They want to talk," Jake said, reading the screen. "Earth's government wants to establish communication with your ships." "I know," Zara said. "But I wanted to speak with you first. You see, Jake, I am not here for a social visit. The galaxy is in great danger, and I need something from Earth. Something from humanity." "What could we possibly have that you need?" Jake asked. "Your technology is clearly far beyond ours." Zara walked to the window and looked out at the busy spaceport. Even with the emergency, some workers were still moving cargo and maintaining ships. "Technology is not everything, Jake. What I need from your species cannot be built or programmed. It is something your people have that most of the galaxy has forgotten." "I don't understand." Zara turned back to him. "Tell me, Jake, when you found me on that asteroid, what was your first thought?" Jake thought back to that day. "I thought you needed help. And your second thought?" "I thought about how to help you." "Exactly," Zara said. "You did not think about whether I was dangerous. You did not wonder what reward you might get for saving me. You did not consider whether your own species would approve of helping an alien. You simply saw someone in need and acted to help them." Jake frowned. "Anyone would have done the same thing." "No, Jake, they would not. In my travels across the galaxy, I have learned that most species think first of their own safety, their own gain, their own people. Very few think first of helping others, especially strangers. This is what makes humanity special." Jake's computer chimed with another message. This one was from Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Global Defense Force. She was requesting immediate communication with the alien fleet. "Your military leader wants to talk," Jake said. "Admiral Sullivan," Zara nodded. "I have been monitoring your communications. She is a good soldier, but she thinks like a soldier. She sees my ships and assumes invasion." "Aren't you invading?" Jake asked. Zara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Jake, if I wanted to invade Earth, your planet would already be mine. One of my ships carries more firepower than your entire military. I am here because I need allies, not subjects." She moved away from the window and sat on the edge of Jake's desk. There is an ancient enemy returning to this galaxy. We call them the Devourers. They consume entire worlds, leaving nothing behind but empty space. For thousands of years, they have been sleeping in the dark between galaxies. Now they are awake and hungry. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. And you want Earth to help fight them? I want humanity to help fight them, Zara corrected. Your people have something we have lost in the hegemony. You have the ability to find solutions when there should be no solutions. You help strangers when helping them costs you something. You sacrifice for people you do not even know. She reached out and touched the crystal hanging around Jake's neck. It grew even brighter at her touch. This crystal is more than a simple gift, Jake. It is a quantum communicator linked to the Imperial network. For 10 years, it has been marking you as protected by the highest laws of the hegemony. Any ship that scanned you would know you were under my personal protection. But why? Jake asked. Why go to so much trouble for someone you barely knew? Because, Zara said softly, in the 3 days you cared for me, you showed me more kindness than I had experienced in my entire life up to that point. I was raised to be an empress, Jake. I was taught about power and politics and strategy. But you taught me about compassion. Jake's computer erupted with more alerts. Military ships were launching from Earth's orbital stations. Fighter squadrons were scrambling to intercept any alien vessels that moved toward the planet's surface. I should call them off, Zara said, standing up. Your military is brave, but their weapons would not even scratch my ship's hulls. I do not want any of your people to die because of fear. She touched a device on her wrist and spoke in her own language. Jake heard her voice echoing from the alien ship outside. A few moments later, his computer showed that the alien fleet was broadcasting on all frequencies. People of Earth, Zara's voice came through the speakers, now speaking in English. I am Empress Zara Lin of the Zelthari hegemony. We come in peace. We come seeking alliance and friendship. We have much to offer your world, and much to ask of your people. Please do not be afraid. We wish only to talk. The message repeated in several other languages. Jake could see on his computer that the Earth Defense Force ships had stopped their approach, though they remained ready for action. There, Zara said. That should prevent any unfortunate accidents. Now, Jake, I must meet with your leaders. But first, I want to ask you something. What? Will you come with me? As I said, you are the only human I trust completely. I need someone who can help me explain to your people what we are facing. Jake looked around his small office, at his computer full of cargo schedules and shipping manifests. He thought about his quiet, safe life. Then he looked at Zara, who had once been a frightened girl depending on his kindness and was now an empress, who ruled the stars. I'm just a cargo coordinator, he said. I don't know anything about politics or diplomacy. You know about kindness, Zara said. You know about doing the right thing even when it is difficult. That is worth more than all. The political knowledge in the galaxy. Jake touched the crystal at his throat. It was warm against his skin, like a small piece of captured starlight. If I go with you, what happens to my life here? That depends, Zara said, on whether we can convince your people to help us save the galaxy. Outside the window, Jake could see people gathering to stare at the alien ship. Some looked frightened, others curious, and a few seemed excited. Earth was about to change forever, and somehow he was right in the middle of it. Okay, Jake said, standing up. I'll come with you, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Zara smiled, and for a moment, she looked like the young girl he had saved all those years ago. Just be yourself, Jake Morrison. Be the man who sees someone in need and helps them, no matter what the cost. That is all I ask. She walked toward the door, then paused and looked back at him. Oh, and Jake? Thank you for saving my life and for trusting me now. You may not know it yet, but you are about to help save the galaxy. As they walked toward her ship together, Jake wondered what he had gotten himself into. But deep down, he knew he would follow Zara anywhere. Just like 10 years ago, she needed help and he was going to give it to her. Jake had never been inside an alien spaceship before. As he followed Zara through the crystal corridors of her vessel, He tried not to stare at everything around him. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, and the floor felt warm under his feet. There were no sharp corners anywhere. Everything curved and flowed like water that had been frozen in place. "Your ship is incredible," Jake said, running his hand along a wall that felt like smooth glass but gave slightly under pressure. "This is just a small diplomatic vessel," Zara replied. "Wait until you see the Imperial flagship." They entered a large room with a curved ceiling that showed the view outside. Jake could see Earth hanging below them, blue and white and beautiful. Around Earth's orbit, he could make out the massive shapes of more alien ships, waiting silently in space. "How many ships do you have up here?" Jake asked. "Only 50, Zara said. "A tiny fraction of the hegemony fleet, but enough to make your leaders take us seriously." A door opened and 3 people entered the room. Jake recognized them from news broadcasts. Admiral Kate Sullivan, a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. President Alex Carter, younger than Jake had expected and looking nervous. And Dr. Lisa Park, Earth's top expert on alien life, though until today that had been mostly theoretical. "Empress Zara Lynn," President Carter said, stepping forward. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "Thank you for not shooting at my ships," Zara replied with a slight smile. "Though I understand Admiral Sullivan wanted to." Admiral Sullivan's jaw tightened. "Standard defensive protocol, Your Majesty. Unknown vessels approaching Earth are considered potentially hostile until proven otherwise." "A wise precaution," Zara agreed. "I take no offense, but I hope we can move past defensive positions and discuss cooperation." Dr. Park was staring at Zara with obvious fascination. "You're really her, aren't you? The alien Jake Morrison rescued 10 years ago. I read his report when he filed it with the Space Salvage Authority." Jake looked surprised. "You read my report?" "Every xenobiologist on Earth read your report, Dr. Park said. "It was the first confirmed contact with intelligent alien life. Most people thought you were making it up." "I wish I had been," Jake muttered. Zara moved to the center of the room where a holographic display suddenly appeared in the air. It showed a map of the galaxy, with different colored areas marking various territories. "This is the current state of the galaxy," Zara said. "The blue areas are controlled by the Zilthari hegemony. The green sections belong to our allies. The red zones are independent worlds that prefer neutrality." President Carter studied the map. "It looks like you control about 1/3 of the galaxy." "Did?" Zara said. The map changed, showing large black areas spreading across the colored regions. "This is what the galaxy looks like now. The black areas represent worlds that have been consumed by the Devourers." Admiral Sullivan leaned forward. "Consumed?" "Completely destroyed," Zara explained. "The Devourers do not conquer worlds or enslave populations. They literally eat everything. The planets, the stars, even the space around them. They leave nothing behind but empty darkness." Jake stared at the map in horror. The black areas were enormous, covering what must have been thousands of star systems. "How many people lived in those areas?" Dr. Park asked quietly. "Approximately 200 billion sentient beings," Zara said. "All gone." The room fell silent. President Carter sat down heavily in one of the alien chairs, which adjusted automatically to fit his human body. "Why haven't we heard about this?" he asked. "Something that big should have been detected by our telescopes." "The Devourers consume light itself," Zara explained. "When they finish with a star system, it simply disappears from the universe. Your instruments would only detect empty space where stars used to be." Admiral Sullivan crossed her arms. "And you want Earth to help you fight these things? What exactly do you expect us to do? Our most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles and laser cannons. If your technology can't stop them, what hope do we have?" Zara smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Admiral, you are thinking like a soldier again. This is not a problem that can be solved with bigger guns or stronger shields. The Devourers have been fighting advanced civilizations for millions of years. They know how to defeat every type of weapon we have." "Then what do you want from us?" President Carter asked. I want to test whether humanity is ready to join the hegemony as a full partner, Zara said. Not as subjects or junior members, but as equals. And if you pass these tests, I want your help in finding a solution that no one else has thought of. Dr. Park frowned. What kind of tests? The holographic display changed to show 3 different star systems. 3 tests, Zara said. Each one designed to evaluate a different aspect of human nature. The first image showed a large ship with red medical symbols on its hull. Test 1, Compassion Under Pressure. One of our hospital ships carrying refugees from Devourer attacks has suffered critical system failures. The ship is carrying 2,000 beings from 12 different species. They will all die unless someone can repair systems that use technology far beyond current human understanding. Jake studied the image. You want us to try to save them. I want to see if humans will risk their lives to save strangers of species they have never seen before, Zara said. The second image showed a planet surrounded by dark, menacing ships. Test 2. Innovation against impossible odds. The world of Haven Prime is under siege by Devourer forces. Traditional hegemony tactics have failed. The world will fall within 3 days unless someone finds a new approach. Admiral Sullivan straightened. Up. You want us to plan a military operation against an enemy we know nothing about, using ships we don't understand to save a world we've never heard of. Exactly, Zara said. The third image was harder to understand. It showed what looked like a swirling vortex of energy in space. Test 3, Sacrifice for the Greater Good. The Devourers are using a dimensional gateway to bring reinforcements from outside our galaxy. The only way to close this gateway is to activate a quantum anchor from inside the portal itself. Whoever does this will be lost forever in quantum space. Jake felt the crystal around his neck grow warm. The crystal you gave me. It's a quantum anchor, isn't it? Zara nodded. I gave it to you hoping this day would never come. But if these tests prove that humanity is ready, and if we cannot find another way, then yes, someone will have to make that sacrifice. President. Carter stood up and began pacing. Let me understand this. You want us to attempt 3 impossible missions, and if we succeed, you'll let us join your galactic empire. And if we refuse, or if we fail, the galaxy gets eaten by monsters. That is a simplified but accurate summary, Zara said. Dr. Park was studying the holographic displays carefully. How long do we have to decide? The hospital ship will begin losing life support in 18 hours, Zara said. Haven Prime has 3 days. The quantum gateway will be fully operational in 1 week. Admiral Sullivan shook her head. This is insane. You're asking us to commit to missions that could fail catastrophically, using technology we don't understand, to save people we've never met. Yes, Zara said simply. That is exactly what I am asking. Jake looked around the room at the 3 Earth leaders. He could see the doubt and fear in their faces. Then he looked at Zara, who was watching him with those deep black eyes. I'll do it, Jake said. Everyone turned to stare at him. Jake, President Carter said, you're a civilian. You have no military training, no diplomatic experience. 10 years ago, I was just a salvage pilot with no medical training. Jake interrupted. But when I found someone who needed help, I helped them. These people need help now. Admiral Sullivan frowned. Even if you volunteer, we can't send you alone. These missions would require teams of specialists. Then we'll send teams, Jake said. Dr. Park, you know more about alien biology than anyone on Earth. Admiral Sullivan, you understand military strategy. I may not know much, but I know how to improvise and I know how to care about people I've never met. Dr. Park nodded slowly. He's right. We can't just abandon billions of people because the task seems impossible. And tactically, Admiral Sullivan said, though she looked reluctant to admit it, if we succeed in helping them, we gain allies with advanced technology. If we fail, we all die anyway when the Devourers reach Earth. President Carter looked at each of them, then at Zara. If we agree to these tests, what support will you provide? I will give you access to some of our technology and assign advisors to work with your teams, Zara said. But the decisions and the risks must be yours. The tests must prove that humans can lead, not just follow. Jake touched the crystal at his throat. How do we start? Zara smiled, and this time it was a real smile full of hope and pride. We start by preparing for the impossible, Jake Morrison. Just like you did 10 years ago when you decided to save a stranger. The holographic display changed to show detailed schematics of the failing hospital ship. Dr. Park, I will need you to study these medical systems. Admiral Sullivan, I want you to review our tactical databases about Devourer capabilities. And Jake? Yes? I want you to do what you do best. I want you to look at these problems and see the people who need help, not the obstacles that stand in our way. As they began to study the mission parameters, Jake realized that the quiet life he had built for himself was. 2 weeks had passed since the first test, and Jake's hands still shook sometimes when he remembered what they had been through. The hospital ship rescue had been a nightmare of sparking wires, failing life support, and alien medical equipment that made no sense to human minds. But somehow, working with Dr. Park and a team of volunteers, they had saved almost everyone aboard. Jake stood in the command center of Earth's newest space station, watching the construction crews put finishing touches on the human sections. The station was a gift from the hegemony, built using both human and alien technology. It was supposed to be Earth's new gateway to the galaxy. The integration is going better than expected, Dr. Park said, joining Jake at the observation window. She looked tired but excited. Her hair was streaked with gray that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. Human and hegemony medical systems are actually quite compatible once you understand the basic principles. Jake nodded, but his attention was focused on something else. The crystal around his neck had been growing warmer each day, and sometimes he could swear he heard voices speaking in languages he didn't understand. More disturbing, he had started seeing things that weren't there, flashes of light, shadows moving in empty corridors, stars that looked different than they should. Jake, Dr. Park said, studying his face. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. I'm fine, Jake lied. He had been having headaches for the past few days, and sometimes when he looked in the mirror, his eyes seemed darker than they used to be. But he didn't want to worry anyone, especially not with the second test coming up so soon. Admiral Sullivan's voice crackled over the intercom. Jake, Dr. Park, please report to the tactical center. We have new intelligence about the Haven Prime situation. They made their way through the station's curving corridors to the tactical center, where Admiral Sullivan was standing before a large holographic display. The image showed a planet covered in cities and farmland, surrounded by dozens of dark, threatening ships. The situation at Haven Prime has gotten worse, Admiral Sullivan said without preamble. The Devourer siege has intensified. They're now using some kind of energy weapon to drain the planet's atmosphere. Captain Ryan Blake, a young military officer who had volunteered for the mission, pointed to readings on the display. At this rate, the planet will be uninhabitable in 48 hours. Jake stared at the tactical display, trying to understand the positioning of the enemy ships. Have the hegemony forces tried a direct assault? 3 times, Admiral Sullivan replied. Each attack was repelled with heavy losses. The Devourer ships seem to adapt to whatever tactics are used against them. Dr. Park frowned at the readings. The energy signatures from these ships don't match anything in the hegemony databases. It's like they're using completely different physics. That's because they are, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see Zara entering the tactical center, accompanied by 2 of her alien advisors. She looked more tired than Jake had ever seen. And there were worry lines around her black eyes. What do you mean? Captain Blake asked. Zara moved to the display and manipulated the hologram, zooming in on one of the Devourer ships. We have discovered something disturbing about our enemy. They are not just alien invaders from outside our galaxy. They are a corrupted version of one of the hegemony's own member species. The room fell silent. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Vorth were one of our oldest allies, Zara continued. Brilliant scientists and engineers. But 5,000 years ago, they were exiled to the Galactic Rim for conducting forbidden experiments with quantum manipulation. Admiral Sullivan crossed her arms. What kind of experiments? They were trying to find a way to exist outside normal spacetime, Zara explained. They believed they could become beings of pure energy, free from the limitations of physical matter. The experiments drove them insane and transformed them into something hungry and destructive. Dr. Park studied the ship designs on the display. So the Devourers are what's left of this Vorth species? Yes. And that's why traditional tactics fail against them. They know all of our strategies because they used to be us. Jake touched the crystal at his throat, which was now uncomfortably hot. There has to be something they don't know about, some weakness they haven't prepared for. Human tactics, Captain Blake said suddenly. They've never fought humans before. Zara nodded. That is what I am hoping. Your species has a history of unconventional warfare, of finding victory when defeat seems certain. Admiral Sullivan pulled up Earth's military history on a side display. Asymmetric warfare has been our specialty for centuries. Small forces, defeating larger ones through surprise and innovation. But we're talking about space combat, Captain Blake pointed out. Most of our tactical innovations were developed for ground warfare. Jake was staring at the display, but his vision kept blurring. The crystal around his neck was burning now, and he could hear whispers in his mind. Without really thinking about it, he spoke. What if we don't fight them in space? Everyone looked at him. What do you mean? Zara asked. Jake blinked, and for a moment his vision cleared. You said they're trying to drain the planet's atmosphere. That means they need to maintain a connection to the surface. What if we attack? That connection from below instead of from above? Captain Blake frowned. Attack from the planet's surface? Not the planet, Jake said, his thoughts becoming clearer. Under the planet, through it. Dr. Park's eyes widened. Subterranean approach. Use the planet itself as cover. Admiral Sullivan was already pulling up geological surveys of Haven Prime. The planet has an extensive cave system. Some of the tunnels go down hundreds of kilometers. We could use small ships, Captain Blake said, getting excited. Boring through the planet's crust from the opposite side, coming up underneath their atmospheric drains. Zara was smiling now. The Devourers would never expect an attack from below. In all their centuries of warfare, no one has ever tried anything like this. It's completely insane, Admiral Sullivan said. The ships would have to navigate through solid rock using instruments that weren't designed for underground navigation. Sounds like a job for former asteroid miners, Jake said, thinking of his old salvage days. We're used to flying through tight spaces using minimal sensor data. Dr. Park was running calculations on her tablet. If we can get close enough to their atmospheric drains, we might be able to overload them with a feedback pulse. Force them to withdraw to save their own ships. How many ships would we need? Captain Blake asked. No more than 6, Jake said. Small, fast, and expendable. The bigger question is who's crazy enough to pilot them. I'll do it, Captain Blake volunteered immediately. I'll pilot one too, Jake said. Zara grabbed his arm. Jake, no, you're too important. If something happens to you... If something happens. To Haven Prime, millions of people die, Jake interrupted. Besides, you said you needed humans to think differently. Well, this is how we think. We risk ourselves to save others. Dr. Park looked up from her calculations. I want to go too. If we're going to overload their systems, you'll need someone who understands the energy patterns. Admiral Sullivan shook her head. I can't authorize civilians to participate in a military operation this dangerous. With respect, Admiral, Jake said. This isn't a military operation, this is a rescue mission, and rescuing people is something I know how to do. As they continued planning the mission, Jake felt the crystal around his neck pulse with each heartbeat. The whispers in his mind were getting louder, and sometimes he thought he could understand words in alien languages he had never heard before. He didn't tell anyone that his reflection in the tactical displays was starting to look strange. His skin seemed to have a faint blue tint, and his eyes were definitely darker than they used to be. He didn't mention that he could now sense the quantum signatures of the alien ships around Earth, or that he sometimes knew things about hegemony technology that no human should know. Whatever the crystal was doing to him, it was changing him into something that wasn't entirely human anymore. But if it helped him save the people of Haven Prime, Jake decided he could live with the consequences. "All right," Admiral Sullivan said finally. "We have 18 hours to prepare 6 ships and brief the pilots. Captain Blake, select your team. Dr. Park, prepare the feedback pulse equipment. And Jake?" "Yes?" "Try not to get yourself killed. I have a feeling we're going to need you for the 3rd test." As the meeting broke up and everyone hurried to their preparations, Zara caught Jake's arm again. "The crystal is affecting you, isn't it?" she said quietly. Jake nodded. "I can feel it changing me. But I'm still me, Zara. I'm still the person who found you on that asteroid." "I know," she said, but there was worry in her voice. "Just promise me you'll come back. The galaxy needs humans like you, Jake Morrison. And I need you." "I'll come back," Jake promised. "After all, someone has to be around to help you clean up this mess." But as he walked away to prepare for the mission, Jake wondered if that was a promise he would be able to keep. The changes in his body were accelerating, and he could feel something vast and alien stirring in the back of his mind. Time was running out, and not just for the people of Haven Prime. Jake floated in the quantum gateway, feeling his body dissolve into pure energy. Around him, reality twisted and bent in ways that should have driven him insane. But instead of fear, he felt a strange peace. The crystal that had hung around his neck for 10 years was now part of him, its power flowing through what remained of his consciousness. The mission to Haven Prime had worked. Their crazy plan of attacking from underground had caught the Devourers completely off guard. Captain Blake and Dr. Park had made it back safely, along with most of the other pilots. But Jake had stayed behind to activate the quantum anchor that would seal the dimensional gateway forever, or so everyone thought. As Jake's consciousness expanded through the quantum network, he began to understand what was really happening. The crystal hadn't been designed to destroy him. It had been designed to transform him into something new, something that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. Through the network, Jake could see everything, every star system in the galaxy, every ship in the hegemony fleet, every Devourer vessel still fighting desperate battles across hundreds of worlds. And through it all, he could feel the pain and rage that drove the creatures that had once been the Vorth. They weren't evil, Jake realized. They were lost and alone and hungry for something they couldn't name. They had been exiled so long ago that they had forgotten who they used to be. All they remembered was the terrible emptiness of the space between galaxies and the need to fill that emptiness with something, anything. Jake reached out with his expanded consciousness and touched the mind of the Devourer fleet commander. The alien being recoiled in shock, not understanding how a human could exist in quantum space. "I know what you're looking for," Jake projected into the creature's mind. "You're looking for home." Images flashed between them, the Vorth, as they had been millennia ago, working alongside other hegemony species to build a better galaxy. Then came the experiments, the exile, the slow descent into madness and hunger in the cold darkness between stars. "Home is gone," the Devourer replied, its mental voice full of ancient pain. "We destroyed it. We destroyed everything." "No," Jake said gently. "You can build a new home. You can remember who you used to be." Through the quantum network, Jake began sharing his own memories. The kindness of strangers, the feeling of helping someone in need, the warmth of friendship, and love. All the things that made life worth living. All the things the Devourers had forgotten during their long exile. One by one, other Devourer minds joined the connection. Across the galaxy, the attacking fleets began to slow and stop as their crews experienced human emotions for the first time in thousands of years. Jake felt Zara's presence in the network as she connected through her own Imperial communication system. "Jake," her voice echoed through quantum space. "You're still alive." "I'm more than alive," Jake replied. "I'm everywhere. And I think I know how to end this war." Back on Earth, in the command center of the orbital station, Zara stood before the communication array with tears streaming down her blue face. Around her, Admiral Sullivan, Dr. Park, and Captain Blake watched in amazement as reports came in from across the galaxy. "Devourer fleets are standing down. Captain Blake reported, reading from a tactical display. They're not retreating. They're just stopping. It's Jake, Zara said, her voice filled with wonder. He's talking to them. He's showing them a different way. Dr. Park was monitoring the quantum readings from the network. This is incredible. He's not just communicating with them. He's sharing human emotional patterns directly into their consciousness through the communication system. Jake's voice came through clearly. Zara, I need you to do something. I need you to offer the Devourers a chance to come home. What do you mean? Zara asked. Invite them back into the hegemony, not as conquerors or subjects, but as the Vorth they used to be. They've been in exile for 5,000 years. It's time to forgive them and help them heal. Admiral Sullivan shook her head. After what they've done, after all the worlds they've destroyed? They were sick, Jake's voice replied. Isolation and despair drove them insane, but they can get better. They want to get better. I can feel it in their minds. Zara closed her eyes and thought about the difficult choice before her. As Empress, she had the authority to make this decision, but it would mean convincing hundreds of worlds to accept their former destroyers as neighbors again. Jake, she said finally, what about you? Can you come back to us? I'm working on that, Jake replied. Dr. Park, I need you to work with the hegemony scientist. The quantum anchor network has created a bridge between dimensions. If you can stabilize it, I might be able to exist in both quantum space and normal reality. Dr. Park was already pulling up technical specifications on her tablet. A dimensional hybrid existence. It's theoretically possible, but incredibly dangerous. I've been dangerous since the day I found you on that asteroid, Jake said to Zara, and she could hear the smile in his voice. But I'm still me. I'm still the guy who helps people when they need it. Over the following days, the galaxy watched in amazement as the greatest war in its history came to an end, through forgiveness rather than force. Zara worked tirelessly to convince the Hegemony Council to accept the returning Vorth. Many worlds objected at first, but as reports came in of former Devourer ships helping with rescue operations and reconstruction efforts, opposition began to fade. Dr. Park led a team of scientists from both Earth and the Hegemony in developing a stabilization process for Jake's quantum existence. It took weeks of careful work, but eventually they succeeded in creating a biological anchor that would allow Jake to maintain a physical form while retaining his quantum consciousness. When Jake finally materialized in the station's medical bay, he looked mostly human, but with subtle changes. His skin had a faint blue tint like Zara's, and his eyes were now completely black. He could shift between solid matter and quantum energy at will, and his awareness extended far beyond normal human senses. How do you feel? Dr. Park asked. Running medical scans. Different, Jake admitted. I can see the quantum connections between all living things. I can feel the emotions of people on distant worlds, but I'm still me. I still care about helping people. Zara entered the medical bay and stopped when she saw him. Jake? He smiled, and despite the physical changes, his smile was exactly the same as it had been 10 years ago. Hello, Zara. I told you I'd come back. She ran to him and threw her arms around him. I thought I'd lost you. You can't lose me, Jake said, holding her close. I'm connected to the quantum network now. No matter where you go in the galaxy, I'll always be able to find you. 6 months later, Jake and Zara stood together on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, a massive diplomatic complex orbiting Earth. Through the transparent walls, they could see representatives from hundreds of species working together on projects that had seemed impossible just a year before. In the station's gardens, human children played with young aliens, their laughter echoing through the corridors. Former Devourer ships, now restored to their original Vorth configurations, worked alongside hegemony vessels to deliver supplies to worlds still recovering from the war. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Zara asked, watching. A group of Earth engineers teaching Vorth scientists about human problem-solving techniques. Jake, who could now perceive the quantum threads connecting all the living beings around them, smiled. I learned a long time ago that small acts of kindness can change everything. I just never thought it would change this much. A young Vorth approached them, its bioluminescent skin patterns indicating respect and gratitude. Ambassador Jake, it said in heavily accented English, the Reconstruction Council has approved your proposal for the joint colony ships. Human and Vorth families will work together to settle the recovered worlds. That's wonderful news, Jake replied. How are the integration programs going? Better than expected, the young Vorth said. Human emotional patterns are helping our people remember who we used to be. The healing process continues. After the Vorth left, Zara turned to Jake. You know, I never properly thanked you for saving my life all those years ago. You don't need to thank me, Jake said. I was just doing what anyone would do. No, Zara said firmly. You were doing what humans do. What makes your species special? You see someone in need and you help them, even when it costs you everything. Jake looked around at the bustling station, at the former enemies now working as friends, at the children of different species learning to trust each other. I think I understand now why you chose Earth for the tests. It wasn't about our technology or our military skills. What was it about? Zara asked. It was about proving that kindness is stronger than fear, that hope is stronger than despair, that sometimes the smallest act of compassion can save the galaxy. Zara smiled and took his hand. Come on, we have a ceremony to attend. The Council is officially recognizing Earth as a founding member of the new Galactic Alliance. As they walked through the station together, Jake marveled at how much had changed since that day in his small office when the sky went dark with alien ships. He had gone from being a simple cargo coordinator to being the quantum guardian of galactic peace, and Zara had grown from a frightened refugee to the leader of a new era of cooperation.